Welcome to the KuppingerCole Analyst Chat. I'm your host. My name is Matthias Reinwarth. I'm lead advisor and senior analyst with KuppingerCole Analysts. My guest today is Alexei Balaganski. He's a lead analyst in the area of cybersecurity. Hi, Alexei. Good to see you.
Hello, Matthias. Thanks for having me again.
Great to have you, and we have a very good reason for you joining me today because you've just recently finished the work on a leadership compass, and this is just being published, so it will be available once this episode is published, so it's really fresh, hot from the press, and this is about API management and API security. I understand that this is the third revision of this document, so we can also have a look at the evolution of this market. What were the first interesting points that you would like to point out when you want to talk about this leadership compass? What has changed?
Well, I guess first I have to explain in a few words, like why do we actually have to smash these two supposedly different topics together in one report. It all started back in 2015, I believe, when we first attempted to actually make a leadership compass specifically on API security. Unfortunately, back then, there was literally no single answer from any vendor. Nobody back then just kind of positioned themselves as an API security vendor. Everyone was talking about API management. That was like the hottest topic ever because everyone wanted to publish their APIs. This whole boom of the API economy was growing. So yeah, API management was the thing. API security was not. So we had to make a difficult decision and kind of try to watch this whole market from the customer's perspective and explain, oh, yes, API security is already important. It will be more important in the future. But I guess not many people still have the feeling that they need API security separately. So we did a general overview. The next one was in 2019. And I believe we already had like 5 companies calling themselves API security vendors. Now, in the latest revision, which we just published about a week ago, we have 20 companies in total, and basically everyone says, yes, we absolutely do API security. Even if it's probably not the only thing we do, we absolutely have lots of API security features. So the market is definitely evolving towards the general public understanding API security is a must-have. You cannot expose your company's most sensitive data, most critical interfaces without securing them properly and making sure that they are compliant with stuff like GDPR, PSD2 for open banking, or PCI DSS for financial companies, and so on and so forth. So yeah, API management and security, those are two sides of a single coin nowadays, and I believe we can no longer speak about those two as two separate topics.
Right. So if we dig a bit deeper into these two aspects, so managing the APIs and making them available in a secure manner and securing them, what are the typical functionalities that you would associate with such a product that is in this leadership compass when it's about management and security of APIs?
Well, I mean, first of all, I guess just to recap quickly, API. In essence, it's just an application programming interface, basically a technology to expose your software's functionality or data in a standardized manner so that other vendors, other customers can reach out and call your program and maybe send you some data and receive some data in exchange. Obviously, nowadays, it's not just about helping developers program something quicker. It's really kind of making sure that two different companies, two different digital businesses can exchange their data or even sell their data as a product or consume something from a third party. Like whenever you want to know like the weather forecast, you probably reach out to a standalone company like the Weather Channel. Whenever you want to publish something on Facebook or Twitter, your client on the mobile phone reaches out to the Twitter's API, for example. When you buy something from Amazon, your request probably goes through a dozen of different APIs from different partners and third-party vendors and contractors. So basically, APIs are the glue that hold the modern digital logistics together. And you have to make sure that your API works all the time, that it cannot be hacked, that your sensitive data cannot be leaked, that you stay compliant. So basically, keeping your API working as it's supposed to work is mission critical. So an API nowadays is just as important as power and phone lines 50 years ago. So of course you cannot separate API management and API security anymore because both belong to this basic capability. Make sure that your digital business is operating as it should.
You've mentioned that there are now more than 20 vendors in that leadership compass. So does that also reflect the evolution really on the market? Is this really an accelerating area of IT? Is this something that reflects the actual reality? And how does this integrate with overall security infrastructures? Because this is actually just, you could think of it as a silo, just the API. So how does this integrate into an overall security infrastructure?
Well, that's a really interesting point you're making now. And I would have to kind of address it from two different perspectives. So first of all, when you talk about API quote unquote management in the traditional sense, originally it was all about taking your existing API, exposing it to the world, and making sure that you can basically count how many times it was called, that you could monetize it and stuff like that. That thing still remains important, but I believe it just became an absolute commodity. Basically, API management in that traditional sense you can get for free. It could be an open source product, it could be a basic service from a cloud service provider. Like that kind of API management doesn't make any sense nowadays as a value-added product. It has to be able to do more. And some companies see it API management as a kind of an integral part of a bigger picture of what they call enterprise integration platforms. So in that regard, APIs just become one of the channels the data can flow into your company. The RSP, for example, streaming data from an IoT device, or some business data you receive through any different channel from your partners. So it's just one of those channels, and then of course it becomes integrated into a bigger, much more sophisticated and flexible and open data exchange platform. On the other hand, we have this interesting developments in the area of application development methodologies. We have containers, we have microservices, we have this cloud native, highly distributed and loosely coupled architectures. And they all have to operate through APIs at a scale which was absolutely impossible like 5 years ago. A typical modern cloud native application might have thousands of APIs, which you have to quote unquote manage somehow. So basically the API management in that area grows with technologies like service meshes, fine-grained, centralized, policy-based access management, different kind of privacy enhancing and security enhancing technologies, encryption, key management. It all belongs to, I would not call it cybersecurity because, well, it belongs to the foundations of making your API available. And then we have a totally different story of API security. Again, 5 years ago, nobody would call himself an API security vendor. A couple of years ago, we already had a pretty developed and booming market for specialized security solutions, which would cover such really diverse areas like, for example, security monitoring, basically making sure that some kind of a machine learning engine observes your API traffic flow, identifies anomalies, and basically tells you when something looks suspicious. On the other hand, we are talking about proactive API hardening, basically analyzing that your API definition covers all the allowed limits for every piece of data and make sure that a hacker cannot abuse your API by, for example, sending too much data or an unpredictable data pattern which disrupts your business logic and stuff like that. And then, of course, you would have protection from distributed denial of service attacks and SQL injections, so quote-unquote traditional web security threats. So API security is getting complicated and complex and more sophisticated. But on the other hand, it's getting more and more embedded into API management. So every API management platform nowadays has some basic security capabilities, even though they might be not yet sufficient to cover everything. This is why, as I mentioned, of those 20 vendors, I would say like less than half are those traditional API management vendors and much more specialized and pretty sophisticated security vendors.
I got the point. And you've mentioned the escalating speed that applications are developed and how they grow and how APIs are getting to the core of these applications. And if applications change over time, if we talk about software-defined networks and software-defined infrastructure, I think it's also a real challenge now to just find the APIs, to manage to discover them, to include them into such a system. We all know that developers and the business is looking for solutions, not necessarily for security. How do these modern solutions support these new ways of designing applications and systems by protecting these APIs? Maybe automated? Are there such mechanisms? You've mentioned machine learning. Is there a detection, a discovery of APIs to make sure nothing gets missed?
That's actually a great point you just made, because this is something which I, as an analyst focusing on this field, is still struggling to explain even to some of those vendors in the market, that not all APIs are equal. Some APIs are created by the business themselves, which in their crown jewels, if you will, they expose their sensitive and extremely valuable data. But there are also other types of APIs. For example, if you run a Kubernetes cluster, or if you're using a cloud service, you have those management APIs exposed, which could be used to disrupt your basic availability of your applications. You also have a lot of third-party APIs. For example, if you have a mobile phone and you want to access some third-party application, again, be it Twitter or Slack or Jira or any other business application you're using, it also has an API, which also can be exploited by hackers. And like everything now has an API. Your printer probably has one. I don't know if you remember, but there was a big story a couple of years ago of when a casino was hacked through an API in a pump used to aerate a fish tank. It sounds crazy, but this is a legitimate and very real potential attack vectors. So ideally, an API security solution has to cover all of those APIs. On the other hand, if you focus on all of those APIs kind of in the same manner, without being able to order them by risk and potential impact, you would end up with the same situation we had with SIEM solutions a decade ago. When you have a security tool that generates thousands of alerts daily, and you simply have no time to investigate or react to them. So kind of API security vendors, they have to find this balance between being able to detect everything and only focusing on things that matter. And the problem is that only customers themselves can identify what matters to them based on their business risks.
So, and you did this analysis, this assessment of the current status of the market. So, as it is a leadership compass, I assume there are leaders, so there are solutions that can actually solve the problems that you just described. If we just name a few of the vendors that you had a look at, so on the one hand, the security vendors, on the other hand, the traditional API management API security vendors, who are the ones that one should look at? Who are the ones that are in the upper right corner when we look at the leadership compass?
Right. So, well, as you might probably know, our leadership compasses kind of make a distinction between the overall leaders, basically the products or companies kind of which best, at least kind of have the best balance of everything, and of course specialized ratings on various aspects of API management or security in this regard. So if our viewers or listeners are interested in all those nitty gritty in details, they probably should read the actual report. But among the overall leaders, actually, I'm happy to say that we have a very healthy mix of API management companies, the large ones like, for example, Google Apigee or Broadcom Layer 7 and Red Hat, for example, as well as smaller but really innovative and specialized API security companies like Salt Security, for example, which focuses on real-time detection of unknown threats based on machine learning, or a company called 42 Crunch, which kind of focuses on the other end, making sure that your APIs are proactively hardened and secured even before you actually write code for them. Basically, you start shifting left all the way and make sure that your API is kind of created secure by design. So I would say that kind of none of those companies, big or small, will deliver you the full management and protection in one package. But that was never the goal of this report. It helps you identify, again, a healthy mix of capabilities you would actually need for your company, and then identify which vendors provide those capabilities. And of course, all of those companies, they offer technical integrations, business partnerships, large partner networks. So if you're looking for a managed solution out of the box, you could probably find one as well. And when all those components tightly fit together, then you can get kind of a robust, flexible, extensible, and secure API management infrastructure. And again, for all the details, I recommend looking into the report. And I believe in the end of September or early October, we are planning a webinar where I would present all the detailed results of the report as well. So anyone can join and ask questions and have a look at our graphs and charts.
Great. That's a good hint. So to have a look at also this webinar, and it needs to be clearly understood that the Leadership Compass is not just recommending a set of products. It's a tool that the reader can use to identify, to understand the market, to identify the candidates for potential solutions, but also to apply your own requirements, your own a specific situation within an organization where the right solution fits in. It does not say that which is in the upper right corner is the perfect product for you or the perfect solution for your organization. But this is a general approach, and you always need to individualize the results of such a leadership compass to get to the right solution that suits you and your requirements. I think that is really important to understand. It's not that easy, unfortunately, and of course we often assist our advisory customers in finding the right solution for them based on the groundwork that you do, for example, in the area of API security and management. But to get to the right solution from a commercial, from a technical, from a requirements perspective, this is really important to do this in a separate exercise.
Exactly. And this is why we don't just offer you a single chart showing like, yeah, the one on the right is great, the one on the left is bad. No, not at all. We also offer you various combinations of like market and innovation and product leadership capabilities as separate graphs. And of course, each company gets a weighted functional rating against at least 8 different functional areas. So you would see something like a spider chart, which will show you whether one company, for example, is focusing on access management while the other is putting all the R&D into machine learning and security analytics. The other one might be focusing on, I don't know, proactive hardening. And of course, the ideal company would have high ratings on all of those 8 charts, but in reality, it doesn't happen that often. So you have to kind of apply your own logic and understand that, yes, for example, if you're only focusing on open banking, you would probably have totally different requirements than that casino with a fish tank.
Exactly. And you've mentioned the webinar. The Leadership Compass is out already, has been published. There will be the EIC event in September in Munich, where you can get in touch with us in person. Or if you just have specific questions around that topic, please get in touch via any channel that is on our website where you can reach out to us, including mail or Twitter or whatever. And I think from my perspective, it's great to see, Alexei, that you are really exercising this in-depth market research between the traditional large vendors and also identifying the new ones, the new entries, which are always a bit stirring up the market as well. So that's great to see that this is also evolving here. Any final words that you would like to say around that topic of the Leadership Compass, something that struck you when doing that research?
Well, what struck me the most is that after all these years, the market is still evolving rapidly, and in some areas even unexpectedly. We've seen a few really interesting acquisitions. And we see that some vendors actually try to consolidate all those disparate capabilities in a single, more useful platform, which is great. On the other hand, we observe that the whole kind of scope of API management and security is totally changing now, because we have these new API types, we have new environments. So there is still a lot of things to learn and to watch in the future. API security will change dramatically over the next few years. So this is definitely not our last leadership component in this area. So watch this space.
Great summary. Thank you very much, Alexei, for joining me today, for giving a first glance on the current Leadership Compass API security and management. And thank you for being my guest today.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.